research. They were in a restaurant, and Charles said to his wife, "I think the waitress is a Unity student." And she said, "Well, why do you say that?" And of course, they're from the Midwest, the Kansas City area. He said, "Well, she has such a happy look." So that when the waitress came back, they asked the waitress, "You know, are you a Unity student?" And she said, "Well, yes, I am." And they introduced themselves as the Fillmores. And she was very thrilled, and she told the other waitresses, and they all came out. And in a few minutes, the chef came out with a cake, and he had written in sugar, "Unity." And so Charles just thought that was great. And he was, the cook was a student of Unity as well. So the Fillmores' greatest satisfaction was to feel that they had made people happy. He believed that happiness is the divine right of human beings, and that anything less than happiness is due only to our failure to perceive the truth for ourselves. This is what he taught in all his classes, and he liked to do rhymes, and one of his rhymes was, "Let the old world wag as it will, I will be gay and happy still." Pretty nice slogan. I also found, in some of my research, I found his personal handwriting, and there's some, obviously some websites out there that have saved some of his writings. And this is what I think he wrote. He has pretty script, much prettier than my script. So no one will be able to read my script 20 years from now or 100 years. Again, these people were in the early 1900s. "Through my faith in infinite wisdom and power, I am endowed with courage to go forward and to make my own occasions." Powerful. So I'll pass that around. Thank you, Mr. Fillmore. I'd like to tell you, everybody, how I got engaged in authentic happiness. I was 54 years old. I'm 67 now, so it was a while ago. I had a very serious illness, something that I'm very grateful to say I have fully recovered from. I was on disability from my job for 6 months, and after 6 months you have to go back to work, but I really wasn't well enough. I was in a really hard spot because I had to go back. You know, the leave of absence was up, and I was afraid because I knew I wasn't well enough to be back at a job I loved, but I knew I wasn't well enough. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? I'm in my mid-50s. If I leave this job, I'll lose the retirement pay that I've worked so hard to obtain, and I'll be in my mid-50s, and when I get better, I'll be in my late 50s, and then I'll have to get a job again. So what am I going to do? So it was an opportunity for me to be very paralyzed, very in fear. So I went to my teaching, and I went to our teaching, which I've been studying for 30 years. And I realized what we teach is that the moment we're willing to change our thoughts, and we all work on this every day, I think that's why we come to service on Sunday, you know, it's just a reminder. If we work on our thoughts, the universe, God, the spiritual being, is going to bring it to us. Eric Butterworth, who many of you may know, is a Unity writer. I have one of his books up there. He says that life is growth, and unfoldment and life is lived from the inside out. Again, it's all from us. Charles Fillmore said, "God's greatest gift to man is the power of thought." And again, the thought statement I'm sending around is from Fillmore. In New Thought, which this is a New Thought church based on Christianity, we believe we are truly creating our own life experiences in our minds. And the more aware we are of that, the better life we can create to ourselves. And usually when I talk, I'll show my statement, because it is, and I say it because I learn so much when I do these talks, it takes me back, you know. So it's about what are we thinking, and how are we creating our experiences. So during that difficult time, I did go back to work, and I worked on my affirmations. And the affirmation I said every day, especially when I go into the building, was, everything is working out for my highest good. Everything is working out for my highest good. Out of this situation, only good will come. I am safe. Constantly reminding myself that I am safe. Well, I worked on a team with about 28 people. And I was blessing my job, saying good things about my job, believing good things would happen, but knowing that I was ready to move on. I went into work my 5th month back. I attended a special human resources meeting to find out that the entire department had been laid off. I knew that my power of affirmation was strong, but I didn't know I was going to lay off all my friends, 27 other people. So I was, of course, ecstatic. They all wanted to go out to lunch. I got in the car and came home and celebrated. They all were like lamenting. They were all doing fine. It all worked out for everybody's highest power. But the point is, I was laid off. I got early retirement pay. I got a great job reference. I got lifetime job outplacement, which is an expensive item, which I did use when I was well. That's my dog. You can put him in the car if he's not going to behave. And so I retired for 4 years. And we lived up here in the mountains. I retired, and guess what? I went back to work at age 59 and a half and got a great job that I worked in for 5, 6 years, and I loved it. And I'm still working a little bit. Isn't that the universe of action? Goodbye, Archie. Isn't that that's God? I mean, what else could that be? God in action. And when we all face these difficult times, illnesses, stress. Oh, by the way, my partner did have double bypass surgery, Rebecca. She thanks everybody for your love and prayers. She's doing very well. Use the money. Oh, they give me $10,000. 55 years old, and they give me $10,000 for education. So I'm like, I don't need to go back to college. So I spent the money on this program taught by Martin Seligman, who is famous for positive psychology. Many of you may know him. He's very well known. He's a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. He started positive psychology. Positive psychology is the study of happiness, it's the study of positive energy, it's the study of wellness but rather than illness. So, and it's been around forever. And you can go look at the teachers, Aristotle and Plato, they're all talking about the purpose of life is happiness. The Dalai Lama's book, if you read one of his books, it's the purpose of life is being happy. And it really ties in with your reading this morning too. The Dalai Lama says, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. Pretty good one. I like that one. Authentic happiness is timeless and universal. Sean Anker is a new researcher. He's on lots of YouTubes, A-C-H-O-R. He's very handsome, he's gregarious. He does a lot of TED Talks. So he talks about happiness. He's kind of a representative. He says it's all the mind, and if you do some daily changes, you'll be happier. So let's talk about what he recommends. Meditate on your breath for 5 minutes a day. Anticipate a future enjoyable activity. Go out of your way to perform random acts of kindness. Surround yourself with things that make you positive, like family photos, music, art, and simple neatness of your desktop. Oops. Working on that. Making time to go outside and avoiding television. Regular exercise, which enhances the long-term effects of the brain. Spending money, but not on things. Spending money on experiences. Spending money on experiences. Especially with other people. I took Authentic Happiness from this gentleman. This is the program I'm most familiar with, and it's the one I spent the General Electric money to learn and become a certified workshop facilitator. And I've taught this and led a lot of workshops, so I'm obviously in the next 10 minutes can't give the whole workshop, but I want to give some information about what I learned. He taught, Dr. Seligman said, the way to be happy is to have a fulfilled life. Makes sense. It's not things. And I think everybody in this room knows that it's not things. I mean, the research tells us the people with all the money aren't that happy. Look at Brad and Alina. Brad and Angelina, they're not happy, and they have millions. So it's doing things that you enjoy. This isn't, again, rocket science, but it is science, because they did all these studies. They studied people and said who's happy and who's not, and they found out that people who are doing what they enjoy, doing something meaningful, they are happy. An example for myself is I'm happy doing the helping with the sustainability of this chapel. That's why I'm on the board, because to me it's meaningful. And there's work engaged, but it's something that brings me joy because I'm doing something I want to do. I think those of us who have activities we like, we can relate to that. So do something that is meaningful, whether it's being a parent, serving on a board, doing your gardening, whatever it is, that brings you happiness. Doing something that you're in the flow, that brings you happiness. You're in the flow, time passes. You know, when you're doing something you really enjoy, it goes along quickly. If it's something you don't want, it's an arduous task, you don't want to be there, it's time consuming. So it's a simple thing, but then how do you know what you're doing? Dr. Seligman's team studied this. So it was a team of people, and they did research across all cultures, and they came up with this information that said across all cultures there's common virtues. So I'm going to give everybody one of these sheets, and then we're going to talk about it, and then I'm going to give you a few minutes to think on it, and then we're going to talk about it. So let me go over the virtues. His team studied and said that all cultures recognize and value the virtue of wisdom and knowledge. That's the first virtue, as you can see it on the front page. And this is two-sided. The second virtue is courage. The third virtue is humanity and love. See that on the front page? And then the back page, the virtue is justice, temperaments, and transcendence. His research said that all cultures, past and present, valued these virtues, these character strengths. And what his learning is, thanks for coming, Mary, say hi to Ron. And his teaching is that to get to the virtue, there's what he calls signature strengths. So let's take, for example, wisdom and knowledge. That's the virtue, and under that is these signature strengths. Signature strengths are the way we achieve that particular virtue. You with me? Mm-hmm. So, here's the next part of his teaching. If you, in fact, identify your signature strengths, and there's 24 that he identified. If you identify them, and he has a way for you to identify them, and it's free, that's nice, it's an online survey, because he's a researcher, he's a professor, so he wants research, and this has been taken by people all over the world, in all these different languages. If you take this survey and identify your strengths, you then apply those strengths, and it will help you reach this happiness point of meaningful life and being in the flow. Again, it makes perfect sense. It's just kind of a cool way to get there. So what I was going to ask you to do right now, and I have some extra pens, is look through this list, it's front and back, and try to just tick in a little check mark what you think are your top 5. Can you pick your top 5? And then we'll talk about it.